Hi, I'm Julian Asenjo, editor for Panoramas, the site dedicated to the discussion of Latin American affairs, sponsored by the Center for Latin American Studies at the University of Pittsburgh. I'd like to welcome you to Panoramas Entrevistas, or in this case, Entrevistas. Entrevistas is a one-on-one segment that allows you, the viewer, to witness a more personal exchange between noteworthy Latin Americanists and interviewers affiliated with the Center for Latin American Studies. This past November, Pittsburgh was very fortunate to host legendary musician and former Brazilian Minister of Cultural Affairs, Gilberto Gil. Gil performed to a full house at the Bayan Theater in Pittsburgh's Cultural District. Kevin Palraj, a doctoral candidate in the Department of History at the University of Pittsburgh, had the opportunity to converse with him backstage before the performance. Here's what Kevin, a musician himself, had to say about the event.
I'm Kevin Palraj, and as someone who has lived and studied the music of Gilberto Gil's homeland, this was truly a remarkable experience for me personally. As we see in this interview, Gil has constantly been at the vanguard of changes in Brazilian society. Even while at the peak of his musical creativity, he's always been involved in social movements which led him to his career in public office. This interview can serve as an excellent introduction to Brazil for newcomers. It also contains a wealth of information for more advanced students of the region and for Gil's fellow Brazilians. The concert itself was wonderful, of course. It was also a very special event for the 50 or so students and friends of the University of Pittsburgh who joined me off stage before the concert for a presentation, where I had a great discussion with the students about Gil's career. I think it definitely added a more intimate learning context to the performance. I would like to especially thank Gilberto Gil and his agents, the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, Panoramas, and the Center for Latin American Studies for the opportunity to present this to you. I do hope you enjoyed the video.
Hi, I'm Julian Asenjo, editor for Panoramas, the site dedicated to the discussion of Latin American affairs, sponsored by the Center for Latin American Studies at the University of Pittsburgh. I'd like to welcome you to Panoramas Entrevistas, or in this case, Entrevistas. Entrevistas is a one-on-one segment that allows you, the viewer, to witness a more personal exchange between noteworthy Latin Americanists and interviewers affiliated with the Center for Latin American Studies. This past November, Pittsburgh was very fortunate to host legendary musician and former Brazilian Minister of Cultural Affairs, Gilberto Gil. Gil performed to a full house at the Bayan Theater in Pittsburgh's Cultural District. Kevin Palraj, a doctoral candidate in the Department of History at the University of Pittsburgh, had the opportunity to converse with him backstage before the performance. Here's what Kevin, a musician himself, had to say about the event.
I'm Kevin Palraj, and as someone who has lived and studied the music of Gilberto Gil's homeland, this was truly a remarkable experience for me personally. As we see in this interview, Gil has constantly been at the vanguard of changes in Brazilian society. Even while at the peak of his musical creativity, he's always been involved in social movements which led him to his career in public office. This interview can serve as an excellent introduction to Brazil for newcomers. It also contains a wealth of information for more advanced students of the region and for Gil's fellow Brazilians. The concert itself was wonderful, of course. It was also a very special event for the 50 or so students and friends of the University of Pittsburgh who joined me off stage before the concert for a presentation, where I had a great discussion with the students about Gil's career. I think it definitely added a more intimate learning context to the performance. I would like to especially thank Gilberto Gil and his agents, the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, Panoramas, and the Center for Latin American Studies for the opportunity to present this to you. I do hope you enjoyed the video.
Começou a circular o expresso 2222 da Central do Brasil e parte direto de bom sucesso pra depois do ano 2000.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Panoramas, sponsored by the Center for Latin American Studies at the University of Pittsburgh. My name is Kevin Palraj, and I'm here to interview the one and only Gilberto Gil. So
No, I'm not the only one. I met once Gilberto Gil from from Africa,
Ah,
and also another time another Gilberto Gil from France.
okay.
Uh, so,
The three Gilbertos?
no, I'm not the only one.
You may think you're the only Gilberto Gil, but you're not the only one.
Yeah.
So welcome to Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
So now that you spent years as a minister for culture, federal minister for culture, you've taken your break, gone around the world. Is it time to be a candidate for president of Brazil?
No ambitions concerning that. No perspectives, no either. And I don't think that the future will bring that kind of option
Right.
for me. No, I don't think so. Maybe some years ago it could be a possibility. No. I'm 70 and too busy with my music and my family and the whole thing. And the time that I spent sort of sharing my public position, as a manager, as a public manager, with politics, sharing the two things. I understood that I have no political talent. I lack it completely. To be a president, I mean, you have to, the first thing is to be, qualified, as the Americans say. I'm not qualified. No.
Now, as Minister for Culture, it seems that the consensus is that you brought a fresh vision and you accomplished a lot. Specifically, I think we were really impressed by your promotion of cultural projects and partnerships, especially regarding the free sharing of information and the different pontos de cultura, and connecting all of these. Once again, looking back, how do you evaluate this policy, and was it successful? How much more needs to be done?
I think it was okay. First of all, because I had the taste for innovation in terms of public policy conceiving, drawing. I like to think in terms of public policies, especially in a place like Brazil, where the relation state-society, it's too obliquous in a sense, and asymmetry is a mark, So, in that sense, I was kind of full of interest and will to do that, to sort of update the cultural, institutional cultural agenda in Brazil in terms of what a ministry, a cultural ministry is for, as an institution, as an entity to design and implement, cultural projects and to help society and that kind of thing. Brazil is as we know, it's a society where the state has been absorbed and almost completely by the elite, historically. So, if there is one with the necessary commitment and will to sort of adjust the state so that it becomes to be an instrument, a tool for social promotion and social adjustment and balance, and so that's good, and I was that kind of person then. Second, I got good people around, you know,
Okay.
to sort of to do the things and to work and to do the things and to represent the different areas that needed to be represented. And we got a couple of good projects, like the cultural hotspots, the Pontos de Cultura and Cultura Viva, and the cyber department that we created, the cyber secretariat that we created, also to take care of internet and blogosphere and, you know, all things regarding the new technologies and communication, you know, the digital culture and all of that. So we got to have at least 3 or 4 good programs and projects in those areas. And considering that in Brazil, I mean, we lacked everything concerning, you know, those areas. I mean, what we did was you know, was interesting.
I read that at the beginning of your gestation, the budget for culture was 0.2%, and then by the end it was 0.6% of the Brazilian budget.
The general all budget. Yes, that was a kind of a good thing that we also
It
achieved.
still seems like nothing.
It's nothing because I mean the recommended amount by UNESCO, for instance, it's at least 1%. And we even today we haven't got to 1% yet. So it's lacking that. I mean, like a good public budget for culture. President Lula was an enthusiastic and very supportive of implementation of new projects and things. I mean, that's the reason we got from 0.2 to 0.6. And through through the deduction that the enterprises, you know, the companies, the business companies were allowed. I mean, we also had an increase of, you know, of funds and everything through what we call Lei Rouanet, which is, you know, deduction of taxes that, you know, federal ones. And also we stimulated the creation of those different taxes in different states and municipalities also, which overall we got an increase of cultural budget in Brazil besides the federal budget itself. Yeah.
I want to ask you also about intellectual property rights, direitos autorais, right? And you have tried personally to release some of your catalog, your music catalog. Found trouble with music companies. What do you see as the future of this? Do you think music and art should be free for all people to share?
Oh, I think that in a sense is kind of deterministic, you know, through technology. It's a kind of technological imperative, you know. Technology necessarily points to
Direction.
that direction of, you know, free almost zero price for devices and for works and for anything concerning culture, because basically of technology. An extraordinary expanding of accessibility and portability and all those things. Implying an almost zero kind of price for all the technological devices and products and everything. So the only thing that we should sort of be concerned about is the payment for the authors, how to sort of pay the authors, of music, theater, movies, literature, and everything. That they have to survive. They have to dedicate a lot of time and energy to perceive, what they do to actually do what they do, to produce what they produce, and they should be paid. And this is a discussion that we have, how to guarantee payment for the authorship.
What about the system that they have, for example, in France, where the government pays a certain
there are different forms.
Right.
There are different forms, different possibilities. I don't know the word in English, gravam, that's the word in Portuguese. Where you have a built-in kind of tax, for all
Right.
the products concerning, like all the supports,
Right.
the different supports for video, for
Right.
imaging, for sound and everything, and then you have a share of the big commerce for those products, going share of those commercial deals. Going for the authors. Anyway, there are different, several ways. Another one is it's sort of developing good collecting societies, collecting institutions, that will be prepared to collect and redistribute the rights, the author rights,
Right.
in a good way, which is, for instance, is the case of Brazil, where the societies in charge of collecting and paying are not really prepared. So that's the first thing to do. Get them to be okay and to do a good job and have a fair distribution of the rights. And all those things, like linking production and distribution of different cultural supports and everything to the cultural content, and then having a share of what that industry means financially and economically, have a share of that to pay the authors, and so those things have to be discussed. It have to be a matter of public policy, discussed by government with the society, by government and society with the ones that the authors, the ones that have those rights. We in the ministry we what's the word, incentive? Are we
Provide incentives.
we try to provoke, society so that they could discuss and position themselves in terms of all those matters.
Changing subjects, like some people say that hip hop is the new Tropicalia in terms of social critiques. Do you agree?
I don't know why the new Tropicalia. I think the task of being critical about injustice and about all the imbalanced things concerning the society. That task was not just a task for tropicalistas, or that even before the tropicalistas, the protest song movement, not just in Brazil but everywhere in the States, in Europe, and everything, was in charge. Had been in charge of that task, and Tropicalia did it also a little. But if we think in terms of what has been the protest movement so far and the arrival of hip hop, I think yes, they inherited that kind of attitude, to be sufficiently eye-opened and sufficiently aware of what society needs in terms of checks and balances and impulses and bursts and everything to get better. I think that hip hop has inherited that kind of role from the 60s and 70s, and even before, when we had the whole protest song movement all over the world, and in Brazil also. So today they are the ones, the hip hoppers, they are the ones, able to wave the flag of freedom of speech and of boldness and of being critical of what the system is. And I think that they are, especially because they use the flow of speech, the flow of discourse as a very, 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 very strong form of manifestation. Yeah, I would say that they inherited that. They are the protest songwriters and singers and song performers of today. Yeah.
How about your current tour, your new music, Baio, Luis Gonzaga?
Yeah, it's not.
Is it the right moment to go back to that?
Not new for me. I mean,
Right.
it's the music from my childhood,
Right.
and the music I grew with.
Right.
The music that is a kind of built-in device that I have inside. Like it's very organic and very much a part of my whole, body.
But is there a reason to make an album like this right now, or was it just waiting to happen?
Well, first of all, because of that. I mean, it's something that is is there all the time. I mean, it's part of my affection, of my love for music, of my interest for music and everything. Second, I think that if we look at the situation of Brazilian music outside of Brazil, I mean, and you go back to the last 30, 40 years, you see that Carnival Samba and Bossa Nova have been the two main areas really exposed up to the foreigners and being absorbed and being reception by USA music and music in America, music in Europe and everything. And then if you go for something like for hall like the Baião, and you see how important, you know, how strategic even it has been for the formation of the cultural Brazilian universe in terms of music, pop music. You see that it's unjust, it's unfair that it's not being exposed, you know, outside. So I am in a kind of position, provided I have an audience. I have an audience in Europe, I have an audience in the States, I have an audience outside of Brazil, and I have close natural links with that music. It's just a consequence that I pick up my guitar and I start, you know, singing for Forró Baião and so far, and bring it to audiences here.
So one last question. Do you have any message you say to people in Pittsburgh, you know, either students at the university that study Brazil, study Latin American culture, study your work?
I think it's very important. It's remarkable the surge, the burst of interest for South American and specifically Brazilian studies in America, in North America. The surge of this Brazilianism, of that new Brazilianism that's not just interested in politics as the Brazilianism from the 60s and 70s was. Now it's a more sort of comprehensive Brazilianism that has been performed by students in America, in Europe, in Japan, everywhere. So they start to be interested in the whole meaning of Brazilian civilization, and of Brazilian civilizing, the Brazilian civilizing process. So the message is just, you know, this welcome, you know, welcome to this multi-pluralistic, you know, approach to worldish culture, you know, to global culture. Welcome to this moment of deep and special attention to the meanings of nations like Brazil, like India, like, you know, China, like South Africa, like, you know, Argentina and Venezuela and all those places. In Africa, several emerging cultures that we have in Africa. Especially now that the new technologies, you know, that cyberspace and fast communications can play a extraordinary role in sort of shortening distances and periods of time in terms of you know, the possibilities of getting together of all those cultures and civilizing processes, different ones getting together. So the message is that just welcome, just okay, count on me to help you doing that. That's the reason I am here, playing for her.
Senor Gilberto Gil, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
much for talking to us. And
Good
once
luck
again,
with this
welcome to Pittsburgh.
this new blog.
Of course. I think it's got off to a wonderful start, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Vocês vão ficar pra trabalhar?
Por ser de lá do sertão, lá do cerrado, lá do interior do mato, da caatinga, do roçado, eu quase não saio, eu quase não tenho amigo, eu quase que não consigo ficar na cidade sem viver